All right, welcome on back, everyone, to First CSP, the channel dedicated to bringing you the first council sorter patch issued from each council in Scouting America, both past and present. We've got a big episode for you today with Old Kentucky Home 205. The council was originally a name change in 1954 from Louisville 205 and lasted up until 1992 when it merged with George Rogers Clark to form Lincoln Heritage 205. Head on over to the patch table to look at the first issue. First issue is pretty distinct here uh, with the T1 from Old Kentucky Home in that it has this royal blue border and royal blue house. White lettering for Old Kentucky Home and the state name at the bottom. The subsequent issues here will have the same imagery as the T1. However, it is a mix of navy and blacks that form the T2s through T5. And we do have all of those, as well as kind of some bonuses to show along the way. Taking a look at the back here of the T1, the old style cloth gauze backing. Pretty hard to confuse the first issue because of its bright royal blue colors. However, sorting through the navy versus blacks of the T2 versions all the way through T5 is a little bit challenging because the blacks are not a jet black, and the navies are very dark navy. They can look somewhat similar. Again, for the rest of this episode, in looking at T2 through 5, we are going to go to the older collecting guides where they show the variations uh, more distinctly, or they have more breakdowns, uh, especially on the 5, that are not listed in more current guides. So let's move on here to the T2A for Old Kentucky Home. Again, you can see this is very, very dark. However, this is the navy, which needs to be discerned from the blacks that come later. This is navy blue border, dark red background, white letters, and a navy blue house. Same style of construction here. So this is the T2A gauze cloth back. I will very briefly put the T1 back up here at the top of the screen so we can see just how distinct the royal blue is from the navy blue. Very, very different. Now we actually have two versions of the T2A that were produced. This is our second version. Also, again, with the navy border and navy house. However, if you look just inside, you're going to see that it seems to be a bit darker. And that's because this version, and the variants here are defined by the border and the color of the house. So this is navy for the border, this is navy for the house. However, the lock stitching that was used is black. That's never described. It's not a separate variation, but it certainly is two different production runs. If I flip over this one, the lock stitching that was used was also navy. So this appears navy from the back, but the lock stitching is a larger portion of what you see when you turn it over. So this is black. And the lock stitching does show on the front as essentially a very thin line that's again attaching the border to the patch. So this is a very thin line of black actually is what you're seeing here. But this is still designated as a T2A because it's a navy border and a navy house. So they at least had two production runs, and this one had black lock stitching. I found that to be super interesting. And then we go on to the T2B, where we have a much lighter twill. So this is still a navy border and navy house, but now we're dealing with a bright red back. Putting back the T2A here very briefly, we can see how much darker the twill is on the T2A, and it's super bright on the T2B. T2B on the back, also just gauze cloth back. And then we move along to the T3. The T3 has a navy border and a black house. Now, again, in person, this kind of looks like a deep blue because it's not really a jet black. But that is the T3 with our navy border and the black house. It's much easier to discern from the back. Again, navy border, and this looks more black actually from the back than it does from the front. That is your T3. T4 is the reverse. So now we have a black border and a navy house. That is going to be your T4. Again, all of these will be cloth backs until we get to the very end, the T5B. So this is your T3, blue on the border, black on the house. Your T4, black on the border, blue on the house. They just kept mixing it up over and over again. And then finally we get to the T5. The T5A is black border, black house. The A was a cloth back. And then we have the T5B, which is the black border, black house, and it was a plastic back. And that is all the twill patches here that kicked off Old Kentucky Home. Again, what's really more challenging to discern is really any of the T2 through 5s, going back and forth between the navy and black. The T1 with its super, super bright royal blue is not going to be confused with any of the rest of these. However, the variety of issues T2 through 5 can be very difficult to discern, especially depending on the lighting, just looking at a single photo of a single patch, etc. So hopefully this has been helpful in identifying those first issues. If nothing else, being entertaining and seeing them all. We're very excited to be able to bring that full set of the first twill patches from Old Kentucky Home to all of you on the channel today. We want to thank everybody for tuning in. Remind you that we've got new episodes out every single day. We'll be back here tomorrow. Hope to see you there. Until then, hope you guys have a great rest of your day.